So I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Fairfield Representative Town Meeting Rules to Regulate Committee. Today is July 1st, 2025. Oh, there he is. Hey, Mark. And I think our first order of business is to discuss the lawyer. Sorry, I'm trying to find this. Of course, I line up all the things I need and I can't find them. Let's start with the discussion of the lawyer part, if that's okay with you, the lawyer language. I wanted to give you guys an up. Pardon?
No, I said, yep, go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to give you an update on the Charter Revision Commission because I asked them, I think a lot of us thought that it's what they're going to say in the charter. And of course, it may not get approved. It depends on what happens in November. But what was going to be added is that the RTM has the right to hire its own attorney. And we didn't want that to be like a political tool that either party uses. We were thinking more in terms of like if an ordinance has to be written and the town attorney is busy or whatever. So I asked the Charter Revision Commission to include some way to narrow that right, which is a weird thing to say, but I said any rules to regulate committee down the road could make it very broad, and that I don't think that would be good. So what they did was apparently most towns don't have this, according to the town attorney in Connecticut. Maybe some of the bigger cities do, one or two of the bigger cities. Stamford has a provision that allows 32 of its 40 members to approve getting an attorney. So that's a really high bar. It's not 32, it's not the majority of the quorum at a meeting. It's 32 members have to vote yes in order to get have the right for the RTM to get an attorney. And when we met with the Board of Selectmen, people seemed to think that was a good solution to have that limitation. And they calculated that 32 out of 40 is 77.5%. So it's actually going to say in the proposed charter that with a vote of 77.5% of all of the members of the RTM can choose to hire an attorney. So it's a pretty high bar and would probably, in most cases, not be a political thing. Hi, Josh, go ahead.
Why 77.5%? Why 32 people? Like, is there a logic to that, or are we just doing what Stanford does? Or
they were just comfortable doing what Stanford does. I think they liked the fact that it's being done somewhere, and they wanted it to be a really high bar to get, to be able to do it. An alternative is what I think I was drafting in the first draft I sent you last time. That it would be for limited purposes, like to draft an ordinance or something like that. So this would allow it to be any purpose, but it would have to be almost the whole RTM approving it. And that's not, final, but the Board of Selectmen has given us their comments. We've mostly voted on that. I mean, it's near the end of the charter revision being finished.
Karen, how would this, oh, go ahead, Colin.
You said 32 members then out of 40?
Say it again.
We're assuming 40 members, right? So you said 32 would want to vote yes?
Right. So
isn't that 80%?
Somebody calculated it. Maybe it is. Somebody calculated it.
It's 80%.
It is 80%. Okay.
Yep. That's 80%. Yeah.
4/5.
Yeah, that should have been easy math, and none of us caught that. I'll suggest that. I don't think that's controversial. But yeah, we said the percentage because the charter still says there could be up to 56 members of the RTM, so it would be that later. So,
are you trying to do a percentage or a number though? Like, what does Stanford do? Is it a percentage?
They do a number. They do 32 out of 40 is what they say in their charter.
So they have 40 members?
Yes. So I think that appealed to people that it was the same number we have.
But so a couple things, Karen. So the percentage, you're using the percentage in case the size of the RTM does increase over time. You're still keeping
Right.
that same, right? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, my other question, do we have to worry about the budget for this, right? Or is it assumed that it would come out of the town's legal budget? How would that work?
It's silent about that. So
Okay,
I think we would have to, either the town attorney would, I mean, I think Phil has figured he might add a little to his budget in the possibility that this would happen. But it depends on the town attorney, whether, and the first select person, whether they add it to the budget. And if they don't, then I guess like the moderator would have to go before the Board of Finance and ask for funding. So I don't know. We're all experimenting with this right now. I don't know how the funding would work. It may be that we don't get funding and then
Okay.
it's moved. Josh.
So what's the driver, like, what's the driving motivation for this?
For having a lawyer?
Yeah.
In the sort of recent past, we had a few situations where the town attorney wasn't able to review an ordinance that we needed to get reviewed. And there have been situations too where some of us didn't agree with the legal opinion of the town attorney. And that
Right.
could get dangerous if you're fighting about whose legal opinion is right. So, but that's where it came from. There was, I think, a lot of people, old timers on the RTM, were frustrated and thought maybe we should have our own attorney, which I think we did at one point, an in-house Eileen
Yeah.
Kennelly.
Yeah.
She was an assistant town attorney who just sort of helped out the RTM. I mean, she wasn't.
Yeah,
really
that-
yeah.
I mean,
But-
that could be a good solution, but
So I guess where I'm going is if the motivation was kind of because the RTM might have different opinions than the first selectman person's office. I mean, that, in my history on the RTM, that was the issue. It wasn't so much we couldn't find somebody to review the ordinance. It was more
I
that
agree.
one party
I
didn't
think-
like the other party's town attorney, and I think that's very common in municipalities, that there's a battle between the legislative wing and the executive wing over whose attorney it is. And
right.
so if that's the motivation, we're sort of undercutting that by saying it can only be either only because you want the town attorney can't do something, or because you have 32 people. In either case, seems like we're undercutting the purpose that was driving this matter to begin with.
You mean because it would be so hard to get either get a vote
Yeah,
or have that limited.
You have to have a situation where you have a supermajority on the RTM and not the first select person's office.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I think
Yep.
there were one or two times when maybe I didn't agree with our own party's town attorney. So sometimes that can happen, but yeah, I think a lot of times it is that. And there was I think it was the Safe Streets ordinance that we had a really hard time getting the town attorney to review. So
But so,
yeah,
sorry, can I just take it one step farther? Couldn't
absolutely.
our town attorney, whoever it is, have assigned the project to somebody in the firm, or like, we don't need to do that. Couldn't the town attorney do that?
In our current situation, yes, because we have a nice big firm with a lot of competent lawyers who can do that. Before this, it was almost always, especially because the town attorney had to live in Fairfield, it was almost always, a solo practitioner or someone in a really small firm. So the way it is right now, yes, it would be unusual to.
But can't that solo practitioner still refer out to other practices?
Mm-hmm. The town attorney could.
Right.
Is that what
So,
you're saying?
yeah, like even if it was a sole practitioner, if that town attorney was overbooked and couldn't handle something, that town attorney
Mhm.
could assign it to another firm. They do that all the time with all different kinds of cases, right?
Yes, yes. I guess it's always a question of political will, where the town attorney could have assigned reviewing that ordinance to somebody outside the firm, but instead we waited. Or, so it's probably most likely to be a situation where people don't agree with the town attorney, And it's possible that it would be both parties even, maybe, depending on what the situation is. I would love to think this will never happen because we'll have professional large law firms or eventually an in-house lawyer. And then, it's more like then they're working for the town versus a handpicked person that, is with the first selectman, and each party has issues with that.
But even in places, go ahead. I'll give up the mic.
No, go ahead, Josh.
So I welcome all these comments because
I'll just say
really
one more thing, which is I think
Yeah.
even in towns where there's a municipal attorney, there's still often a battle between who that person represents or that group of people represent.
I bet.
But I'll leave it there.
I just want to add a couple things to what Josh was saying. Actually, one is a question. So this would be for specific situations. It's not that the beginning of every term, the body votes on the ability to have an attorney when needed. It is on a case by case basis, right?
Right. Case by
So
case basis.
vote on it at the meeting.
Yeah.
I do echo as in terms of, having been on the RTM for a long time, almost as long as Josh, that I have never, ever seen a situation where the town attorney just can't get to it. So we need another town attorney. Like there's always a way. He or she will have someone in his or her firm do it, or they'll subcontract it. I mean, it gets done, right? I don't think that there's really a great reason to do it for that, but I do go back to what Josh was saying, and he's 100% right. It's because there's been disagreement with the town attorney, and that goes deeper into whether the town attorney does represent literally like the first selectman and has the first selectman's back,
Right.
or is supposed to represent the town in the town's best interest, which I would think. However, sometimes the RTM may have the town's best interest in mind. The first selectman might not. I'm thinking of all different scenarios. So when you have one town attorney and no one's really sure who they really represent, although they should represent the town, how can they really represent the town and the administration and then also represent the RTM if there's two different sides of it, like we had with the parking authority? And I think there was, Phil just pretty much said, yep, it's all good. It's all good. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. All of it? It's just all good. Like there's no questions at all. And so I think that was one of the recent things. And that's the only one of the recent things where we thought, well, wouldn't it make sense, especially when we're talking about the state, we're talking about money, we're talking about a contentious issue, we're talking about potential referendum, where we get a second opinion just to see what that opinion says. And if it agrees with Phil, like it's cross-checking. It's not saying we disagree with you, Phil, you're wrong, but more like, all right, Phil, let's be sure about this because this is a big issue. We're changing departments and money in the state. So that's where I think the most recent issue came up, where it might make sense to get a second opinion. And then the other question is, okay, let's say that second opinion goes against the town attorney. So what do we go with? We go with the second opinion, or we go with the first, or what does that actually do for us? What do we do with that? What's the action item? So I think there are some things that come up that I don't know if we do go down this path. I mean, it does make sense. We often say we should be able to do that, but we have to put like guardrails around it a little bit.
I agree. Josh, you had more you want to say? Your hand's up. Okay.
Sorry, I just put my hand up.
Okay, Ken.
Yeah. So this is I'm kind of like with Josh and Jeff and trying to like understand the necessity for this, and to me, to litigate political disputes it shouldn't require like the RTM to get its own attorney, right? To me, the town attorney represents the town. The board of selectmen represent the town. The first selectman represents the town. The RTM represents the town. We may differ in terms of what we believe is the best way to do that. But at the end of the day, we're all still here to represent the town. I don't know hiring an additional attorney is the proper way to work out that process. Disagreements between the Board of Selectmen, RTM, Board of Finance, those need to be worked out in my opinion, via the, the normal political process,
Yeah.
if you will. And we might not like opinions that come back, but those are the opinions that we get. And if a circumstance arises where, the town attorney gives us opinion and we're like, hey, could could we work through him to get a second opinion? I guess that would be my question, rather than us having the ability to hire attorneys, because I just think that we could be potentially opening a Pandora's box, because all of a sudden everything that comes up, all of a sudden everybody, yeah, well, we as the RTM, we'll get our attorney.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my concern. But I would say, if it's something we think we do need, I do think like the 80% level is a check on attempting to make sure it doesn't get abused.
Right. So I'm almost at the point where I'm sorry it ever came up, because
Yeah,
I think right now I don't feel like we need it, because we have Cohen and Wolf, which is a very good firm. And even if you didn't agree with Phil's decision, they are, there are a lot of people there, and
yeah.
you know, and it is hard to figure out what to do. I don't know logistically if we can remove it from the charter at this point, because we were only allowed to change things the Board of Selectmen asked about.
Yeah.
And they specifically asked us 77.5% or whatever. So we're meeting one more time with the Board of Selectmen before we vote. And I'm gonna raise this because I kind of regret, I don't think I'm the one who raised it, but I very enthusiastically supported it, because in the past, we really would have liked it a few
No,
times.
it's a good question. These are the types of discussions that we should be having. So it's good that you raised it. And I would think too, this is where I come down on certain things, right? With the Safe Streets stuff, to me, there were personality issues there, and professionals in the positions that they're in need to be able to work past those things,
Mm,
right?
right.
I know it's not always easy, but that's
Yeah.
that's what they're supposed to do. That's
Right.
what they're hired to do. So
Right.
I don't know that, being able to hire another attorney is really the best way to address that kind of stuff either.
Yeah. Josh?
So what happens if the charter contains this provision and we don't put it in the rules to regulate?
Then I think we would have that right, and there'd be no guidelines, and we'd have to kind of, maybe somebody would just make a motion at a meeting, or ask the moderator to put it on the agenda to vote on. And
So-
we'd have the right to, or the RTM would have the right.
And what happens if we put it in the rules to regulate and it doesn't wind up in the charter?
It already says something like as provided in the charter, and we could strengthen that language, like to the extent permitted by the charter, blah, blah, blah.
So one move, and perhaps this is what you're saying, Karen, is we should put it in just to make sure that that 80% rule is there in case
Yeah.
it winds up in the charter.
I think so. And I think by the time we vote on, or the RTM at least votes on this, the charter will be before or getting towards the voters, and we'll know whether it's still in or not. We could make an amendment if we had to on the floor to remove that part. So I know this is complicating, it's a complicated issue, but thank you for talking it through. I think it is.
So I think then we need to put language in the rules, just
Yeah.
to
But
cover
don't we right now? I mean, the RTM has, if we voted for it, we have the right to hire another attorney. I mean, there's nothing that says we can't do it now, right? And
Well, I
it
guess
would be a majority vote.
if it's not in the charter, then I think we're unlikely to get funding. Now we don't have a clear way to get funding with this thing in the charter, but we would say, hey, the charter says we can have a lawyer, so the town should be funding the lawyer.
Mhm.
So that's theory.
Does the charter say, the way it's proposed or planned to be proposed, how that is going to change a situation? In other words, so, okay, we can have it, just as I mentioned before, we can have a lawyer or attorney, and that attorney goes against a town attorney. Is there a stipulation like what then happens though?
No,
Has the
all
charter
they had
addressed that?
the RTM may hire
Can
its own
hire.
attorney. So there's, yeah,
Yeah. I think that's an important thing because I don't know. I mean, if we could hire, yeah, we could hire one and just say, hey, this is what they say, and maybe that changes people's votes. Doesn't mean it's an official ruling. Yeah, so you hire someone and they say an opposite thing, then it's up to the members to interpret it as they want.
Yeah,
Right.
that's, I mean, to me, you know, you're hiring attorney to provide their,
Or opinion.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we would
you might
either
vote
choose to accept
that
it
way.
or not, you know?
Right.
But what about those situations, even like now, where if we, let's just say, you know, I mean, I guess it's going to be like anything. If we didn't agree with Phil's ruling, which we didn't on the parking authority, and we said we want to get another opinion, and we just, you know, get mowed over by the votes, we can't do it because it's essentially a super majority. We can't hire I mean, it's like anything right now. The budget, it's any vote. We don't have the numbers, so
Mhm.
it's like during those times where I think it's needed to be that cross check, that check and
Mhm.
balance, is we can't get it. And it's only
Well,
those times where it's so extreme where it is now, and we can't then do it because we don't have the votes to do it. But it would be that one check and balance.
well,
That's
that
all.
if that's the case, then it's a political discussion rather than really. I mean, I think you're rarely going to have a super majority, although I would love it if we have one every term. But I think this is going to be unusual, probably. But I guess in a perfect world, the 32 votes would mean that the RTM is kind of united in its view that this is so
Mhm.
blatantly incorrect.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
Um,
again, I wouldn't want to see it used to litigate
Yeah.
political differences. To
Right.
me, it should be strictly, you know, we have a legitimate legal reason that we need our own counsel. I can't,
yeah.
in my mind, I can't even necessarily see what that would be because I can't see I can't see where we as the RTM would necessarily be in some opposition to like the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance or something like that.
Yeah.
But uh, you know, that's why to me it would be something extreme where everybody would agree that it's a necessity, and that would be it. Otherwise, I don't, you know, I don't really
Mhm.
think it's necessary.
Josh.
Uh, so I'm sorry. So it's if it's in the charter, it sounds like the charter would include the 32 or 80% presumably provision.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
don't need to add that to the rules to regulate. We could
Right.
that would be
Right.
there.
That's
So
true.
maybe the thing for us to do is to not include this, since we're not 100% thinking it's a. I think we're not really thinking it's the greatest idea,
Hmm.
and it sounds like the safety valve that we're looking for would be in the charter anyway.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. So then the procedure would be, and probably as we're talking, it may never happen. It would be that somebody brings, asks, I don't know, asks just procedurally, I don't know how it would work. That somebody or two people would have to ask the moderator to put it on the agenda, and then we vote on it. I guess that's all that would happen.
Well, so the charter
you
will
have to
say
do
it's an
that?
80%. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say. So, couldn't you do that within the context of a meeting, right? A voting meeting, where if some set of scenarios came up where we felt we needed an attorney, if, you know, two people made motions, wouldn't it be voted on right then and there?
Not according to the rules to regulate, right? If we bring something up that wasn't on the agenda, it can't be voted on until the next meeting. It could
Oh,
be
yeah,
added.
that's right.
It could be raised and then voted on a month later.
That's
And I think often the few situations I can think of, we'd want it to happen right away. So that's the other challenge. How would that happen? Yeah.
could we well. So if we put language in the rules to regulate, could we then also make a stipulation that it could be voted on at the meeting where it's presented?
I think there'd be a FOIA problem because you haven't warned the public that this was
Yeah.
going to be
You can.
voted on.
I don't think there's a scenario where this is going to be a positive thing for the RTM to have
Mm.
to hire its own attorney. I think it's going to only cause all kinds of issues that we've already talked about. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could
Uh,
exacerbate it too. Josh, just to your point, I still am back on some people may look at it as, okay, it's just another opinion. And others may say, well, is this the new ruling? Does this overrule the town attorney? Because there
Right.
are some things where the town attorney makes sort of a ruling on to some degree.
Mhm.
And does this override that? And then you got two opinions. I don't know. I mean, there's some pluses and minuses. The pluses are it will reconfirm that we're doing the right thing as a body. Yes. The minus is if that attorney does say something separate, well, again, what do you do then?
Yeah.
Because then members are like, I don't know who to believe. Well, who should I believe, this guy or believe? And members are even more torn. Yeah, it's definitely going to create a little confusion.
I mean,
but like we said, if it's in the charter, then it's in the charter, and we don't have to specify anymore.
I'm not an attorney, but it seems to me that this stuff is not always black and white, and there's interpretation to be done. And if we wanted to find an attorney that interpreted differently than the town attorney, we could do that. And like a lot of this stuff is interpretive as opposed to like, this is exactly what the law says and there's only one way to read it.
Yes.
So like this is definitely going to go down a path where you're going to have differing opinions and you're going to be in battle. This is where it heads.
Without a
Call
doubt.
it lawyer shopping, right? Go wait till you find the person who will say the right thing. Yeah. Marcy, are you on? Because you've been at the charter meetings as well as this, and I'm just curious if you have any point of view.
Yes, I'm here. Is this something, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm wondering if this is a case where you actually don't put anything in. And I think what's important is actually how we modify the rules to regulate. So is this something that, in November, the current body could make a modification because of whatever was voted on or not voted on in the charter? There might very well be a few other items that get passed with the charter changes that affect the RTM in ways we don't expect. And so while it won't be as comprehensive as this committee was, it could be a simple, amendment process that adds that to the rules to regulate and just starts it. Someone senior on the body would start it with our new process and bring it through or something,
Yeah.
So
Seems like a sensible approach.
So,
I like it.
don't address it now, and then if necessary, address it in a few months.
Yeah, because I wasn't, from listening to the meeting, I wasn't 100% certain on if they were, because I know I actually went to a couple of the meetings before it got to the Board of Selectmen, and I brought up the point of how are you going to give us a town attorney? How are we going to decide to use it? And I know that in the past, I have thought a town attorney would be good because as a non-lawyer, I always felt it more difficult for a non-lawyer to work on an ordinance, whereas if you have a lawyer, I think you have a definite advantage. And I think that's a discouragement to members that have passions that they are just not lawyers and they don't know how to put it into words. And so that's when I, like a couple years ago, always thought that a lawyer would be good for the RTM to specifically work on the ordinances. But I think it kind of got spun out of that. And I don't want it to be political for certain, it shouldn't be he said, she said, this opinion, that opinion, because that could go very wrong. But I do think, though, that this is where the rules to regulate should have the option to amend it, if anything happens in the charter, so that needs more specificity. Because when I brought it up to the chair of the Charter Commission, he said, oh, well, the RTM will decide in the rules to regulate. And then the Board of Selectmen, they kind of were like, no, we need more specificity in that. So I really think it should be a charter decision, not an RTM decision. I mean, it could give the RTM really a little bit too much power if they had
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I think we could take it out, or the other thing we could do is say the RTM shall not have the power to hire an attorney.
Then, well, that, I don't know if you, because that would contradict the charter. I don't know what would govern then. Somebody could eventually say, well, the charter says we can, so we can. It'd be messy. But
Then, yeah, I make a motion that we strike this item from the rules.
let me just ask Mark if he has any, he's the only one we haven't heard from. Any comments from you, Mark?
I mean, I think I agree with what Marcy was saying. I think basically if it ends up in the charter, the ability to use that is there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we need to specify it here in the rules.
Okay, thanks. So Josh has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll drop that. We'll pull that out.
Do
Should
you want
we,
me to call up the document, Karen, and is that our
that would
next
be
move here?
great if you don't mind. You're faster
problem.
at it. That would be great.
Yep.
I think we also have to vote on the June 17th minutes. Did people get a chance to look at those? They're pretty brief.
I'll be abstaining on it since I wasn't there, but I did look at them.
Okay.
I did
Same.
read the whole paragraph that was there, so yes.
And Colin, you weren't there either, which.
Yeah, I'll also abstain.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Okay. Mark seconds it. Okay. Any
Second.
comments? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And then 2 abstentions, Ken and Colin.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And whenever you're ready, Josh, thank you for doing that.
Of course, it's giving me a little grief at the moment. Wow. It's not letting me share. I don't know why.
Oh, I can do, let's see if I am the host. So is there something? Let's see if there's a way I can let you share. Make presenter, see if that
John,
works now.
Josh, do you have the share icon at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, but I'm on the web. I'm not on the app. I think I have to switch to the app. I think this happened last time too.
Oh, I just made you the presenter. I don't know if that makes any difference though.
I'm joining it on the app. Let's see if that helps.
Okay.
All right.
It's coming. We got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're gonna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna strike the current 47, 48, and 49. Right. We're taking these
Yes.
out. These are
Yeah.
the attorney items.
Yep.
And then are we just going to go to the top and kind of proceed through? Is that what you want to do, Karen? I think
You
we made it
kinda-
through last time, right?
Did we, there was a note on the version that Betsy shared, that had you said this is where we stopped, but maybe that was from the earlier. I think it was, before the attorney one and we hadn't done decorum,
Oh, gotcha. Thank
I
you.
think. Well, we did the ordinances for sure. And we did the budget, right?
Special procedures, ordinances. Can we do the budget?
I don't know, did we?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
Okay, budget. Each year, the RTM will hold budget hearings to hear presentations from various town departments on the budget. Departments will provide brief presentations and members may ask questions relating to the budget line items. The moderator may impose limitations on the number of questions posed. The budget hearing shall not include debate or opinions. In the weeks prior to the budget hearings, the moderator shall ask all members which departments they want to hear from at the budget hearings and shall also schedule key departments for the hearings.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we did this already, I think, but
I think we did too.
Maybe we did because
yeah,
Sounds
we didn't.
familiar,
We
yeah.
decided not to label the key departments, right?
yeah,
Not
that's right.
specify,
Yeah.
like-
Yeah, we
Are
did.
you okay with it? I just added other. Is that fine with people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the April voting meeting, the warning shall include an item requesting that members disclose any budget line item reductions they may propose with a brief explanation for the proposal. There shall not be debate on these items.
Okay.
Sounds good.
They may propose, is that right?
Yes, because you might not propose. You might not propose
Yeah.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're permitted to. So.
All right, sense of the body. An advisory resolution is defined as any sense of the body resolution or any other resolution which does not exercise a power conferred on the meeting by the charter or state law. No advisory resolution shall pass except upon the affirmative vote of 2/3 of those present at a voting or special meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing you didn't understand, it sounds like maybe they thought people thought you could vote on a sense of the body because it doesn't really accomplish anything except just say, here, we think this. But I don't know, it seems better if it's on the, I don't know, I'm, Jeff, can you remember if there ever was?
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, you're saying this last part that we crossed out, or where I
Yeah.
said I don't understand this. I guess I didn't understand, and remind me if we already talked about this, why we don't put this on the agenda. I mean, the sense of the body's always been on the agenda, and I think it should continue to be. And then someone made a comment that well, maybe we need a sense of the body for something that recently happened, and we weren't able to put it on the agenda in time. But then
Or we changed.
but then we couldn't
maybe.
vote on it that night.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still not totally comfortable with crossing out that line.
Oh, you mean you think
The part where it's not on the agenda. I don't.
You mean you?
Oh, the line said it did not have to be on the agenda.
No, I'm saying it should be on the agenda.
Right, so by
Yeah,
taking
that's
out
what
the
it
line,
means.
it does have to be on the agenda, right? Because all voting items have to be on the agenda.
Yeah, I
appear in the
agree.
morning. Okay, wait. Sense of the body residents do not. Oh, okay, right. In order
I think it probably should come out.
do not have to appear on the warning. Okay. But I don't even think that was on the original language. Like
Oh,
the
really?
current rules regulate, right? It doesn't even say that, does it?
Oh,
Yeah, I think I might have added that because I thought
You
that
might
was
have
the-
added it and I didn't understand that, and then we
Yeah.
took it out and we clarified. So I think, Josh, we did go through all this.
Yep.
Yep.
So-
Okay.
yes. that's-
Decorum. The rules of parliamentary practice found in the latest edition of General Roberts Rules of Order shall govern procedures and protocol of all RTM and committee meetings, except as otherwise specifically provided by any rules or Freedom of Information Act now governing the conduct of the RTM or hereafter adopted. In the case of LNA, however, a quorum need not be present to review, receive public comment, and debate an item. Why is that? Why does LNA have a special?
Well, for our other committees, we always said, even if you don't have a quorum, you can talk about the items, but you just can't vote. Because I guess it's on the agenda, you can. Yeah, I don't
But we're
know.
not allowing that for the overall meeting, right?
Yeah,
I guess that last sentence to me would be the same as kind of like the one above.
Mm.
If it's assumed that even if you don't have a quorum, you can still discuss it, why do you have to put in a specific rule? Because it seems to indicate that there's something else going on.
I,
So
Right.
I think we
if-
say earlier on that if there's no quorum, we can't even discuss
Right, we do say
for the
that.
overall body.
We do say that. We can't even hold a meeting. And should LNA be able to discuss items if there's no quorum? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
I mean, if the full body can't.
I suggest we take that last line out.
Yeah.
I agree.
Fine.
All good with that? Any objections?
no,
Okay. Anything else on 47 or whatever number this really is? Okay. 48, norms of decorum and respect shall apply in every meeting. Members must not address each other directly or make personal attacks. All remarks and questions must be directed through the moderator, and questioning another member's motives is strictly prohibited.
I like it.
Good. Yep, that's good.
If any member transgresses the rules of order, the moderator shall, and any member may, call the transgressor to order, and if speaking, the transgressor shall sit down unless permitted to explain. This one raises a couple questions. Because if a member can call the transgressor to order, the transgressor shall sit down. So
Right.
if Karen's saying something, I can just say I called you to order and you have to sit down, and I'm not even the moderator.
Well, I guess you only have that right if I transgressed the rules of order. So if I get up and say, Ken Astorita is a jerk and he's a you can call him.
And those are my finest points, Karen, by the way.
Then I think that's what it's saying. If somebody does something that's
So
out of
is it
order.
the
Yeah.
moderator who would determine
Yeah,
that though?
Josh, the moderator makes the decision. Any member can stand up and say, call point of order, this person is out of line, blah, 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 blah. The moderator then adjudicates that, makes a decision.
Yeah.
No member can tell another member to sit down.
Yeah.
They can only say, through you,
That's true.
Madam Moderator or Moderator, that person can't do that. And then the moderator has to take that into their own hands and make a decision.
Now, let's see. Any member may call the transgressor to order. And if speaking sounds like it's talking about the member. So maybe it should be and the moderator.
Member may call the Yeah, I don't even know if I like. And any member may call the transgressor to order. And I think any member can, make a point of order to point out to the moderator that this person's out of line. If the moderator, him or herself, hasn't already realized that, right? I mean, in most cases, the moderator is going to realize, wait a minute, hold on, you can't do that.
Right.
Someone can stand up and say, hey, Madam Moderator, don't you see this? They can't do that. I mean, I guess they could do that. But the moderator is going to see it anyways.
Yeah.
But they can do it. A member can do that. I mean, a member can say, point of order, I'm sorry, is, representative, whatever, is out of line.
Right.
So they're not calling the member out. They're sort of pointing it out to the moderator, who then takes the issue up. So however we can write that.
Okay. So if any member transgresses the rules of order, the moderator, any member may call a point of order. The moderator shall determine whether there is a transgression. I mean, the moderator can call.
Probably
out.
do it.
You don't
Yeah,
even have to
they do
write
it.
that.
Exactly. Yeah, they
Yeah.
would do it themselves, probably.
Yeah, but does this clarify what the member can do?
Yeah, because you're saying the member can call a point of order on anybody else's behavior. So yeah.
Is that really just a Robert's Rules thing that we don't even have to say? Like maybe we don't need this rule.
Well, but it is the decorum section, which
It's a decorum thing.
largely
Good
is
point.
kind of probably doing that.
And
It
this
just
is one of
shows the
those
rule.
things
It's just
too-
order. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that this is one of those things too where sadly you need to say it so that people will see it.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it's
a good point.
happened. We've talked about it. It's happened too many times where it's probably good to put in here where members read this and go, "Oh, okay." It's one of those decorum issues I think is worth putting in.
Yeah,
Do we
I
want-
agree.
Do we want this or something like this?
Moderator may also call a transgressor to order without even. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's probably what's going to happen
Yep.
most of the time anyways.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, it works.
All right, anything else on this item?
No,
Okay. Each member, having been elected to a position of trust, is obligated to represent the constituents to the best of the member's ability. No member shall vote on a question when it creates a situation that could compromise the member's ability to make decisions solely in the town's interests or creates the appearance of impropriety. Period. The member alone has the right to determine whether this obligation can be fulfilled by participating in or abstaining from a vote on any question before the body. Members are reminded that even the appearance of a conflict of interest can undermine the integrity of the body. Any member with a conflict of interest involving a matter to be voted on by the body shall recuse himself or herself from discussing and voting on such matter and shall leave the meeting for the duration of any discussion and vote related to the item.
wait, so it says a member can decide, but then the last sentence is saying the member has to leave if it's a conflict of interest, right?
A member with a conflict of interest, but the member determine it if they have a conflict of interest.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Why do they necessarily have to leave the meeting? Can't they just refrain from discussing and voting, but they can still sit there?
I'd say no. I think they should leave the meeting because their influence is still impacting,
Yeah.
the meeting. I mean, if it's let's say it's a caucus leader or someone who's well known on the body, and then everyone knows this person has a vested interest, and they're sitting there looking at everybody. It just seems like they could be putting pressure, or there could be an appearance that they're putting pressure on people.
Right. And the person shouldn't be able to comment at all, too,
Agreed.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, because they could put their head in their hands and be like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
Roll
Or
their
look really
eyes. Yeah.
angry.
That's fine. I think in the rules it says you got to leave the room. I think it does, at least in Robert's rules.
Okay, that's fine.
That looks good.
Okay. The moderator shall preserve order and decorum and shall decide all questions of order upon which no debate shall be allowed except at the moderator's request. But the moderator's decision shall be subject to an appeal to the meeting, which must be seconded and upon which no member shall speak more than once. No other business shall be in order until such an appeal is disposed of. Yeah. How?
I think it would be a vote, or the person making the appeal would withdraw the appeal, right?
A majority vote?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have my notes in front of me. Yeah. Whatever decision shall be subject to an appeal of the meeting, which must be seconded, upon which no member shall speak more than once. But on this rule too, with an appeal, the moderator gets the last word, I believe. I think, geez, I don't have my notes on me. If there's an appeal, I believe the moderator is the last one to speak, though. I gotta check that.
But you're appealing the moderator's ruling, right? So you're appealing the
Yeah,
moderator's
but I think
ruling.
that
Yeah.
but I think the moderator gets a chance to, defend him or herself why they made the ruling too. But then there is a vote.
Mm.
What am I looking for here?
Or the appeal is withdrawn is what I was thinking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are we good on this? Anything else?
Withdrawal
I
should
just look
have
at-
an AL. Yeah, that looks good.
Let me stew on this for 2 seconds.
Hey, Josh, in terms of the language, I know this is semantics here, but could we go, no other business shall be in order until such appeal is withdrawn or resolved either through a majority vote?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's good.
Through a majority vote. Is that the right language? Majority vote?
By majority vote, maybe, but yeah, resolved by. by vote. Either way.
You want to say an appeal is approved? I mean, resolved. Because what if the could
Or
be
is voted
resolved
on.
by rejecting it? Like,
It's
But
brought
that's,
to a
it's still
vote.
resolved. It's resolved. Once
yeah,
it's
but like
rejected, it's still
resolved
resolved.
how? But we got to like state, okay, so there's got to be a vote on the motion to appeal.
How about unless it's withdrawn or voted on or brought to a vote?
Right, and so the appeal stands if it's a majority vote approval, like if the majority of the body approves. I can't remember if it's a majority, and I don't have any of my notes in front of me because my stuff is.
How about resolved by a vote of the body? Does that kind of,
Yeah,
No
That's
other
all.
business should be in order until. such
we
appeal
already
receives
know it has
on-
to be majority. That's already.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Should we go to 52?
Sure. If there is any
Yep.
disturbance, disorderly conduct, or other activity in or about the meeting venue, which, in the opinion of the moderator, may impede orderly transaction of the business of the meeting, the moderator may take such action as the moderator deems necessary to preserve and restore order.
That's good.
Yep.
We got to the end.
Yep.
So I think what I'd like to do is, do we have everybody here? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think we do.
We do have everybody. We could vote on it tonight, but I'm thinking maybe we all read it and vote on it next week.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Final copy. Yeah.
Who's that? Mark, did you say something?
No, I said we'll look at a final copy like that has all
Yeah.
the remarks included,
Yeah,
all the
I think
changes.
I think that'd be good to do. One last look.
Karen,
So
can you send 2 copies? Can you send a clean version and then the red line
Yes.
version with
Yeah.
the comments and stuff?
Yeah, that sounds good. Josh, if you want to send me this, I can clean it up. Get
Yeah, I
rid
mean,
of
I
the
can.
comments.
It's easy for me to send both. What I'm wondering is, so we're going to have 6 copies of this thing with different notes on it. Another way to do this is to have a shared document that we can all work in.
Mm-hmm.
So that we're all working in one document. How do you feel about that, Madam Chair?
Before the meeting, you mean? So that when
Yeah,
we get
between
to-
now and the meeting, anyone who wants to make a note, it's going to be in one document. We'll be seeing each other's notes. Is that an infraction of FOI or something, or?
I think it's an inner working group that we could do that. I don't
Yeah.
think that's an issue.
I think that's okay. I think as long as we have the final version in the materials for people to read before the meeting. So we'd have to finish, I guess we've already got the agenda written, but we'd have to, try to do it in the next few days so that we can put that in the packet for people to get
Yep.
to look at. But I think that's a good idea. Otherwise, we could go through another thing that we're doing now, and that would
Yeah.
be a shame.
So what I suggest is that I'll send 2 copies. One is the marked up one, the other was a clean one, but I suggest we all review the clean one and make new track changes onto the clean document. So anything any of us do are going to be tracked on the same document together, and we can look at them together, hopefully in an efficient manner.
So we'll
next
do it
week.
in Google Docs.
I was going to do it. I hadn't even.
I don't know. Can you do it in Word where everybody
You
comments?
can.
Oh,
You can. Yeah.
okay. I'm good with that.
I think I can with my home account. I know I can with my work account. I'm looking right now.
Does everyone have Google Docs though? I mean, that is pretty easy to use.
If you have Google, then the
Yeah.
Docs is an option that you can.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. Does somebody else want to set up the Google Doc? I'm not a Google Docs guy. I mean, I know it's not complicated. I'll share the Word document and somebody share a Google Doc.
I think I can share on Google Docs.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds good.
Okay. So I think that's it for tonight, right? Anything
Hey,
else?
Kim,
anybody?
yeah, just a quick thing. Do
Mhm.
we need to start giving some thought about how we're going to present this to the body? I mean, I know it has to go through the normal process, but who wants to speak to it? Who wants to present?
Yeah,
Just wanted to bring, to get that out there. We need to be thinking about that.
I think that's a good idea. I think it'd be good if there's a Democrat and a Republican both presenting.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, I think it would be all of us would
Mhm.
sit at that table and
Yeah.
you know, if not present, show that we're together on this,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
if questions come up that we feel we are appropriate to respond to, then yeah, we're there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And maybe before we meet next time, I'm going to try to think of like what are some key things we did that were changes that we should highlight for people. Because some
Yeah.
of it's just language changes, but I mean it's reorganized, but also it's we could explain more what we did.
Yeah.
Certainly the committees are
Mhm.
going to need explanation for people.
Yeah, that'll be the biggest thing. I think we want to focus on, where are the major changes. The committee's obviously the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you. Let's do a motion to adjourn and we'll get back next week. Josh, seconded by Jeff. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Great job, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Karen.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks.
Enjoy the
Bye.
holiday.
Bye-bye.